presentation of my thesis that I wrote for our beautiful department. It's called That's What Makes Me Me. Portraits of 4 high school students reveal the importance of an after-school program. Okay, so this thesis was inspired by Project Coach, which is an after-school program, and it was founded 7 years ago by 2 professors, our very own Salmon Trader and Don Siegel of the psychology department. And I started working in this program because it was a component of a class I took last year, Growing Up American Adolescents in Institutions, taught by Sam. And he suggested that I become a part of the program. And although I was terrified about the thought of working with teenagers, I decided to give it a try. And instead of describing to you the program further, I'm going to show you a short little clip of what Project Coach is. Don't know why there isn't volume.
Well, you need to put the other cable into the speaker.
Yeah.
There you go.
Is that loud enough?
Yeah.
You're going to be a great coach.
Okay, so it's just a short look into Project Coach. And after the time that I spent working in Project Coach last year, I began to wonder if the positive benefits that I was seeing for the high school students were transferring for them into the school setting. And so I came up with my first research question, which is, to what extent, if at all, do young people transfer what they learn in an out-of-school program to other contexts in their lives, in particular the critical context of school? Secondly, I was observing the role of the teenagers in the Project Coach, and I saw that they were really engaged and they were playing such an active role in what they were doing. But then I would hear them tell me stories of how they were failing classes and really hating school, and I was wondering what the role of engagement was and how engagement could differ from the context of Project Coach to the context of high school. So after I decided to write this thesis, I had to come up with a conceptual framework, and these are some of the ideas that I researched, beginning with adolescent development. And Nakula and Toshalis, 2 authors, really focus on adolescent development in their writing, and they talk about the construction of adolescence and how important it is in human development. And adolescence is a time in which the teenager really decides who they're going to be as an adult, and it's really critical that they have the proper role models and support systems in place for this development to happen. And as I kept researching adolescent development, I began to see a connection between engagement. And I kept reading research that was saying that in order for development to take place, active engagement has to happen. And that means that the youth have to want to be where they are and have to have an active role in their context, or else it will be a passive relationship and true development won't occur. And in the research, as I was reading about engagement, every time engagement was discussed, it was also discussed in the context of after-school programs. 3 authors, Barbara, Stone, and Eccles, really are real supporters of after-school programs, and they continually identify positive benefits such as social skills, initiative, positive life assets, such as empowerment, good peer relationships, that all form in after-school programs. And they say that it is in these programs and during this after-school time that development really happens and that the full youth is able to develop. However, there is very slim to none research that talks about engagement in schools and the lack of engagement, or why that is, and whether or not the proven benefits of after-school programs are transferring to the context of school. And Perkins and Salomon define transference as a time when knowledge or a skill associated with one context can reach out to enhance another. So in this case, are the positive benefits of Project Coach extending for the teenagers to the time they go in school and other times in their lives. Another thing I found that was greatly missing from the research was the youth voice. And this was really ironic to me, since as educators we are working for youth, and the youth voice and their opinions and what they want and their desires and how they're receiving what we're doing with them is missing. So I thought that was something that really needed to be changed. So as I said, I was working with Project Coach, and that's where this thesis really came out of. Project Coach is located in Springfield, which is the third largest city in Massachusetts, and it is specifically in the North End, where the statistics and anything you read about the North End paints a pretty bleak picture of where these kids live. Just so you have an idea, 23,000 crimes were reported in 2000, and they are increasing every year. And child poverty rates can be as high as 70%. And looking at Springfield education system, it is a very similarly bleak picture. The dropout rate is almost at 10%, and the graduation rate is a very low 50%. And in terms of graduation, only 28% of the kids that do complete high school are going to a 4-year college, while 39% are going to a 2-year college. And finally, in comparing Springfield as a district to the rest of Massachusetts, you can see that in all the positive categories in MCAS, Springfield is a lot lower, but then when we look at the needs improvement and failing, the numbers for Springfield are a lot higher, especially when you look in the failing category, you can see that 29% in the Springfield district are failing math, compared to only 7 in Massachusetts are failing. And all these statistics are taken from the Department of Education website. So, as I began my own research, I decided to use 3 different research methods, the first being portraiture, which I modeled after 2 authors, Sarah Lawrence Lightfoot and Denise Pope, who both used this method in their own writing. And portraiture is a research method that allows the author to use the voices of the students to really tell the story instead of the author relating the story. And I thought, going back to what I mentioned earlier about the youth voice missing in research, I thought this would be really critical for my own research, and that's why I chose this method. Secondly, I used interviews, which were structured and unstructured. And finally, I did observations in Project Coach, and I also, my favorite part was observing the teenagers in high school. I was able to follow each teenager around for a full school day. And that really gave me, while frightening, still a really good perspective. So the 4 students that I worked with in Project Coach, their names have been changed for privacy, but